In this video, I'm just going to take a bit of time to talk about dictionaries, which are the built-in hash table that Python provides to us. Dictionaries are going to be our main use case for hash tables. Whenever we need a hash table, we're generally going to use a dictionary. This is really one case where I will say that the implementation that the programming language gives you is probably a fair bit better than the ones that we can do on our own. The Python dictionary does a lot of different things in order to make it as efficient as possible and in order to avoid collisions. It uses different kinds of hash functions, it uses different kinds of open addressing schemes, and overall it's a fairly complex implementation. If you want to learn more about the implementation of the dictionary for Python, I really recommend checking out Python's documentation on it. You'll be able to see a lot of the details around how the dictionary is really implemented. But for now, I just want to give you some of the intuition around the different operations that we have available inside of it, the different ways that they work, and the different efficiencies or time complexities that you can expect for them. For a dictionary in Python, we generally can create it in a pretty simple way. We could just do variable equals dict, like this. From here, we're able to set items and get items the way that we might do with an array or list. But generally, instead of needing to provide an integer index, we can actually provide values to use as our keys and then the values associated with them. So I could do a at, value equals 2, for instance. And then what I could do is I can print out something like a at value. And when I do that, I'll get the value of 2 as a result, right? So we can see here, if I do this here, we'll get the value that we expect. So you see we get the value 2, right? So this is one of the main things around the Python dictionary is that it doesn't prevent us from using any sort of value as the key for entry. Whereas with the dictionaries that I was showing, they were primarily using integer values. We could have easily implemented something that, added up all the ASCII values of a character, used that as the modulus or something like this. So it's not really too hard to implement something like this, but it's nice to have this feature out of the box without needing to add anything else. These general operations should operate around ON on the average case. There is an amortized O of N worst case for both of these operations, so for getting and for setting. What that basically means is that most of the time, we could do this in constant time. It's a fairly robust setup for a hash table, so collisions are fairly uncommon. However, we are still acknowledging that collisions can happen, and in those collisions, if they do happen, and if there's a lot of them, then we could have a worst case of linear time. But generally, we're going to see a constant time for these different operations. Python's dictionary is going to give us a pretty good shot at getting that. A few other things that you should be aware of inside of the Python dictionary, one of the main things that we're often going to use is if something in A, right? So if value in A, for example. What this is going to do is it's going to search for the particular key inside of the dictionary. So if I do something like this, right, value is now in A. So when I do this, it should print has value because this is now inside of A. But if I change this to be value 2, then we wouldn't have this print, and I can add an else statement just to have something print at all. Just like this, right? And you'll see here that this will print has no value, and we'll see that we get a key error, of course, in this case, because the key didn't exist. So usually the structure that you'll see here very commonly is we'll check if value is in it, and if it is, then we'll print out that value. Otherwise, we'll say it has no value, right? So we can validate that the value exists inside of the dictionary before we actually go and try to do something with it, right? So this method right here is similar to the other ones. It's an O1 average amortized ON. And with that, you have your main methods of the dictionary. There are a few other methods that exist, things like iteration and deleting items, but we're not going to use them as much as we will these 3 core items, right? So getting, setting, as well as checking if something's in the dictionary are the main ones that we're really going to use throughout our practice problems and usages of hash tables. So this dictionary is going to be core to the different problems that we're going to solve in the next few videos. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.